everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation with Stevie Brown. So I met him not too long ago, and his presence and the things that he said kind of stayed with me. It never left me. And I would love to work with him and his company, the company that he works for, being true to you. So that's another a topic that we'll be discussing in a moment. But for now, I want to introduce him briefly. Stevie Brown is a student of beauty and an artist. I love that, student of beauty. It stops me every time I see it. So, with that being said, I know it's very simple. It sounds very simple. For some of us, might sound almost very clear, but I would love for you to introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Stevie Brown?
Okay. Well, I feel like I never really grew up, as in, I never really got serious about
Okay.
myself. I've always taken myself really lightly, like a kid.
Yeah.
I have this childlike appreciation for beauty, and it teaches me. It teaches me things every day,
Mm.
and it never stops. So I've always had this trust.
Yeah.
I have this trust beauty, and so if I would describe myself, I would say that I'm an artist who has complete faith in beauty.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, you went a bit deeper there. So I guess the question that comes to me is how do you describe what beauty is? What is beauty from your perspective?
Well, I think it's like music.
Yeah.
Um, if you hear a musical note, it creates a coherent shape in the air, in the
Yeah.
medium that it travels. And noise doesn't do that. Noise,
Mm.
it collapses. And
Yeah.
when you have layered meaning, when you have layered tones and layered melodies, they become nested together like a shape, like platonic solids all nested together like crystals. And so, to me, beauty is meaning.
Yeah.
Um, the scale is invested with meaning, and it has its own quality. Um, the ancient tuning systems have their own quality of beauty,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
work with them. It kind of we embody it in our being, in our thought, because I believe that thought is the same way. Thought creates structures in the ether. And the ether is more fine than air. It it's a refined substance of energy. And so nowadays, in modern times, I think we lose sight of beauty in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of noise um, and incoherent expressions. And I think it comes from a place of pain. To a pretty comes with a lot of pain because it's it's hard to beauty in this world.
Mm.
This world has
Mm.
become unsafe for humans. And
Wow.
so trying to recover that kind of coherence is really following simple virtues. Music follows the simple laws, um, like the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth and the octave. Those could be similar to virtues like honesty, compassion, and resilience.
Yeah.
If we have a guiding for all of our thoughts, words, and actions, those things are like our instruments in our orchestra. And if we follow those virtues, they'll guide our thoughts and actions so that they'll always be in harmony and creating a melody with our life. Living as an artist, I think, is making sure that your life is a work of art
Yeah.
also.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Yes, I'll try not to become infatuated, as we mentioned off record, with all these things, and not to not to land only on the surface of the intellect of that part of understanding. I just always try to be as present as I can so I can kind of feel and perhaps even going beyond feeling almost as this intuitive kind of trust that you mentioned before. Just I wanted to kind of see it's being here. And then it really happens every time I talk to you. It's there's this component of beauty, as you described, this harmony and trust. One of the things that I have observed within my own experience here is that I tend to see what you call beauty when I witness other human beings like yourself self-reflecting and about this own human experience and how to make it more peaceful and loving. That to me, it's beauty. I see beauty in that. There's nothing more beautiful than that. Because I also see the intention of you investing a lot of your time and energy in getting to know yourself to help others in the environment. So it's just very profoundly beautiful. And yeah, I get it almost like too joyful about it because I can't stop it. But yeah, it's almost like a celebration, I guess, within me that I smile and the giggling, just trying to celebrate this. So thank you so
It
much.
has like that. It has felt like a celebration ever since we met.
Yeah.
And we're kind of celebrating some of the things that we resonate with.
Right. Right.
And I think going back to trust, being human and starting this life innocent, there's a lot that we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think our character is defined in a lot of ways by how we relate to the unknown. Are we afraid of it? Do we want to control it? When we enter the womb, we are completely in the dark, and
Yeah.
and our senses are limited. They're not knowledge. They go about trying to get knowledge from the world, and but at the same time, there's this direct knowing within. I think that's where we can start to trust um, and have faith in the unknown. I was talking about
Yeah.
faith and beauty. It's
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going to happen. I've seen so many beautiful things,
Yeah.
um, and that gives me faith that what's unfolding is going to be beautiful.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Infinite times of yeses to that. Right. That what we see here, there's it's exactly that. There's this uh, the birth of trust that whatever's happening here is leading us somewhere. It's taken us somewhere. It brought us here to express this beauty as we call it, as you call it, and then there's this unfolding. And I love the component of the unknown. So just I didn't mention that before. I know you talked about innocence already. So innocence and wisdom is the topic of this episode. We'll go back to it in a moment. So the unknown, um, that's something that most people are very much afraid of. What causes us to be so afraid of the unknown? What's the main cause, the main reason per se?
I think chaos can make us afraid to um, to do the right thing. Because we think, oh, if everything's random, what does it matter if I choose honest or not? Um, you know, the world shows us a lot of ugly things too. And so,
Yeah.
we fear that the harmony, that the melody disrupted. And it comes into, we know that people they become so complex that they know
Mm,
make choices um, that align with the simple virtues. Love is so
yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
insanity strikes when we mistake other things for love, like
mm,
control,
mm,
um, where
yeah.
we replace it. Some people replace fear, um,
Yeah.
love with, and and so being in a society where, yeah, there's um, they've lost their ability to choose
Mm,
consistently for love.
yeah.
And I don't know, um, it's become a trend. And
Ah.
I think there's some very simple solutions for these complicated problems.
Yeah.
Um, but people have to trust that choosing according to simple virtue is going to benefit them somehow.
Right.
That's what guides people's choices is benefit. So I think it comes down to free will and personal agency, and trust each other's free will. Can we trust each other to respect each other's free will? Um, because that would eliminate a lot of the unknowns. You
Right.
know, if everybody could
Right.
trust one another to choose to invest thoughts, words, and actions with love,
Yeah.
this place would become paradise again.
So true. But that takes trusting oneself, right, Stevie? Before we can trust others, we need to know our own inner world. We need to trust that. And that's the work that
Absolutely.
that's what I have been doing for so long now. And it has not been easy to really unpack the inner world. What I came across recently that, not so recently, but it has become more, let's say, something of interest for the intellect, is the idea that we have parts, many parts, that we cannot find that what I call me there. There's no such a thing, but just all these parts that compose who I think I am. So, and then the idea is actually a healing method that you probably heard about. It's internal family systems. So you probably heard about that. So that's
Yeah, we work a lot
fascinating.
with that in
You
integration
did.
coaching. Yeah,
Yes, right. Wow. So to get to that wholeness, to that sense of wholeness, we've got to work with the parts. There's no way out of that. Although in Advaita Vedanta, which is a Hindu philosophy that I follow, a spiritual philosophy, it says that we can, in fact, um, make this direct assessment with the ultimate reality and bypass all the parts, knowing that we are whole already, although it doesn't feel like it, but we are. So talk to me for a moment about that, because that has been in my mind for a while now.
well, a model we use integration coaching at being true to you is the true self. And true self, it's different for everyone, but we all find it as an alignment tool for authentic reality,
Yeah.
our beliefs, and really finding our true north, figuring out what it is that we truly value, and how we can embody values with our thoughts, words, and actions, and getting some kind of consistency going. But for me,
Right.
I've always thought of the true self as the gardener.
Mm,
The gardener
yeah.
cultivates many things, and he also they have to discern between certain things. There's weeds, there's pestilence, there's things that go to live in your garden without your consent. And personal agency it's derived consent, because we learn to choose for ourselves what we want to cultivate, and we learn to respect other people's choices.
Right.
And so when we're interacting with people, we discover these boundaries. It's like if you were at a community, and so when those boundaries bump up against each other, that's where we do the work. That's where we start figuring out, where's there some overlap between the things that we're cultivating. Because in recovery, whether recovery from addiction or trauma, a lot of it has to do with relationships.
Yeah.
And so our relationships with ourselves and with is almost a mirror of our relationships with our loved ones. And attention is so valuable. Just attention and being curious is one of the first things we try to cultivate. Attention is a pure energy, and whatever it focuses on will thrive.
Yeah.
And there's an economy of attention in a family where they're competing for it from one another, loving attention. And so it's trying to discover it within as a renewable resource, through self-examination and tranquility, meditation, spiritual. Connecting with the true self is connecting with the chooser, the one who chooses how to relate to anything. And so it should be called Recovering Relationships.
Yes. Yeah, that would be a good one too. Oh, it's just a title. The content is the same, the intention is the same, the work is the same. How did you come to this place? I mean, it's not a place, but how did you come to be what you are today and do what you're doing today, Stevie? How did you discover all this?
A lot of
Yeah.
a lot of suffering from the wrong choices, from choosing the opposite of those virtues, choosing anger and hatred, choosing avoidance, instead of resiliency, choosing dishonesty. Those things, when they play an instrument in your orchestra, they mess up the whole song.
Right.
Every instrument has to be in alignment. It doesn't have to be complicated. They just have to simple virtues. And when they don't, we get this, we get trauma and this karma. We have this guilt from when we hurt, we cross boundaries forcefully, we disregard consent. People strategize to circumvent consent. So it's really, I think, comes from not trusting. Why would somebody lie to get ahead, or do things that they think will benefit at the cost of someone else?
Right.
That's not trusting in death, in community. There's no way that someone else can gain from someone else's loss.
Right.
In a community, everyone's needs are important.
Right.
And if everyone's needs aren't being met, we're all as a community.
Yeah. Wow, that's another powerful message to be reminded of for those who are doing the inner work, but still struggle with trust, that leads us to still lie, even small lies. Would you say all kinds of lies? Or what comes to mind, that's a habit I don't have and I choose not to cultivate. But I do see sometimes that I try not to hurt people's feelings. So that might come across as a lie, but it's not. To me, it's just a way of being, a way of of not causing more pain, perpetuating the legacy of pain and trauma. So I choose not to. So talk to me for a moment about feelings and emotions, because the way you mentioned it to me by email is that the feelings and emotions are different. Emotions are expressed, what we express, and feelings, they just reside within. So I wonder if we can choose to express those feelings and trust that whoever is listening to it or witnessing them will not judge and will not, let's say, will not make us feel guilty and shameful for being so open and honest.
Right. Right. And that's what's unique about the coaching container is that we tell our clients right up front, all of you is welcome here in this container.
Yeah.
All of your vulnerabilities, all of your guilt, all of your all of your celebrations, everything,
Yeah.
everything's welcome.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we can't choose how we feel. Um, you know, agency,
Mm, mm,
um, that's another thing that kind of hinders personal. Sometimes we can't choose how we feel. Sometimes we just feel something,
yeah.
and the personal agency comes in to how we relate to that feeling, how we respond.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I heard a definition of evolution that I really liked. It was their increasing ability to respond.
Yeah. Mm,
And so,
yeah.
as we're going through our personal evolution, that's what we're doing. We're organizing our thoughts and our values so that when the time comes to express, um, we can do it authentically. You
Right.
know, a lot of, they know their own curriculum. The clients, they have their own curriculum right there in them. They just need to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And once those are organized and they're the conductor of their orchestra,
Yeah.
things start to fall into place musically. And so when those feelings, they have this, um, they have this established structure, this harmonic structure in their mind and practice, so that when those triggers come up, they don't have to identify the trigger.
Right.
They can be
Ah.
independent of it.
Mm,
They can be the gardener and say, well,
mm,
there's a gopher. Hello,
yeah.
gopher, I see you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you wreck these things that I'm growing.
Yeah.
And so
Mm,
the choose comes back with feelings. It's a little harder. Yeah.
yeah. It's a great observation that I didn't think about it that way. Right. So feelings, we cannot always choose them. They just arise, and then it's our ability to recognize them and know how to respond to them the best way for all of us, for me and whoever is around me or us. That makes a lot of sense, Stevie. Yeah. I love the work of you do with being true to you, because I mean the name already, that's the company's name, it says it all, being true to you. And I love when you say that you welcome everything, everything that's within the person, in that moment. So it's this very open, would you call programs? That's a coaching program. Can you explain to the audience what being true to you offers, like the services, so we know? I don't want to talk from my perspective. Just
So we do relational recovery coaching. So helping people to relate to different states of suffering um,
yeah,
in more productive ways, whether it's an addiction to a substance or whether it's a mental addiction, codependency, that kind of thing. And we also educate and support around people's decisions if they so choose to use psychedelic therapies in their process. So the psychedelic integration is all about preparation and into where we speak to the client before their experience, and then we after their experience. Because if they go in prepared, they're able to release expectations and set intentions. In is like attention with a
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
attention can accomplish a lot, especially in that open space when our heart is
Right.
open and we have that sense of peace. And so we're able to bring it back into our ordinary life and cultivate it within our ordinary everyday life, dishes in the laundry, and relating to our suffering in ways that help us to grow
Mm.
and embody the values that we choose.
Yeah. That sounds wonderful. That's what caught my attention with this work. So coming back to the topic of feelings and emotions, what would what would be freedom from that perspective? I know you already answered that question, but if you were to summarize in one simple phrase, what would that be? What would freedom be?
Freedom to choose joy
Yeah.
no matter what's happening to you.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, that's a celebration part that I can't help it because yeah, everything sounds, I mean, it's just incredible. I have to say I'm just kind of amazed by the fact that we can have a conversation about this. Like,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a secret, but it's not. It's out here. The truth is not hidden. It's everywhere. It's in front of us. But some
This
of
is a
us are
very
not able
special
to.
time in history, I believe.
Yes, me too. It's exciting, right? It's worth celebrating even before it happens, really, really happens.
It is.
So let's see. Yeah, there's another topic, the inner ecology. I mean, I never heard it that way. So, what is inner ecology?
So inner ecology is a way I've developed of talking about some of these truths. Um, and it really just views, so if you define ecology, it's the study of relationships between organisms and their environment.
Right.
And I go beyond the physical environment. I mean, I should have mentioned I'm a gardener, and that's my
Yeah,
passion.
yeah,
Um, I believe that our most basic skill set should cover our most basic, should all be growing our own food and medicine
right,
sustainably. But
right,
with inner ecology, we recognize that we are a cosmos and are living beings within us. And there's an emotional environment, psychic environment, there's a social environment, and those organisms all have relationships. So it's starting to understand the relationship. So it goes back to parts work. It's just
yeah,
a more
yeah,
simplified way of talking about it,
right,
um, so that we see, we can recognize what we're cultivating. And being the
right.
gardener, we get to choose what we're cultivating at all times and being fully conscious of our process.
Mhm. So it is another very simple concept to understand, which is to become the gardener of our own lives, inner lives and outer lives. Of course, that is, it sounds very simple, but I know that it's not easy to, let's say, to commit to that. For me, it is, but for most of us, it's not. And I wonder why a lot of times, why some of us wake up for this deep truth and we put all our energy and our hearts into this type of work of doing the inner work and passing that on, these messages. And some of us choose not to. I know you mentioned before fear, that it's almost like it became a trend, a sort of a trend to not trust, to just choose fear instead. Is this something that's being actually perpetuated by societies as a whole? our system that is in a way becoming the weed, or planting the seeds of weeds in our minds? Is that media, social media? Talk to me a bit about the environment we live in and how it is influencing us to choose not to choose against ourselves, really.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at who's in global garden,
Yeah,
it's corporations. And
yeah,
corporate ecology is wasteful, it's unclean, it's unnecessarily cruel,
right,
and they their valuing is very limited. All they see is the bottom line.
right.
And so with advertisement and entertainment, um, those things don't want personal agency develop, because
Yeah.
people with personal agency are difficult to control.
Mm,
Be able to control what you buy and what you expose your mind to. So, you know, I say they, it's that proverbial they, you know, it's big
yeah.
pharma, corporations, these private interests that are almost like a cancer on society because they're invading functional organs of community,
Yeah.
and they refuse to die and they keep growing just like a cancer. So,
Mm,
recovering personal agency as a society, you can see how we react to these medicines back in the 60s. These transformative medicines came, we didn't have the maturity, and governments have been locking people up over half a century. Now we see we're getting another chance. It's like an individual discovers their childhood trauma and is ready to establish a new relationship with that again.
yeah.
So um,
Ah,
the private interests, I think, get in the way because they've got deception down to a science. You can tell just by
ah,
pharmaceutical commercial with all the beautiful 3D graphics and whispering horrible side effects under their breath. And it's like, you think I didn't
yes.
notice that? So
Right.
discernment, in a lot of ways, discernment was crippled on purpose.
Wow. Yeah, it really surprised me that so many of us don't see like this obvious intention behind it all. Because it's very clear to me, but for some of us, and perhaps most of us, not. So it's kind of scary even to think about that this type of system was able to manipulate so many of us, so much of our minds just took over everything. And that, would you say, that has to do with survival? That's because most of us live out of fear to survive. So we do anything, or we will trust anyone who gives us that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with ingenuity. They've made us believe that things are scarce. But if everybody
Yeah,
flipped their lawns over and planted seeds
yeah,
on the bottom of the sod,
right,
um, you know, lawns are a status symbol of royalty
yeah,
the common
yeah,
man has adopted, and we don't even realize that that is prevented from being sustenance independent. And so that scarcity mentality, yeah, um, it causes competition. But I think one of the benefits of growing up in a society like this is that we develop, we have all developed these beautiful thought systems, action to the ugliness. Like a clam building a pearl around a gland, the
yeah.
discomfort and the suffering is what helps us to cultivate our even higher.
Mm,
So
mm,
the being true to you modeled suffering is something to be cherished,
ah,
and to have an intimate relationship with your suffering and to use it as a spring for transformation. So all of us have a unique opportunity living in society um, where suffering is commonplace.
right. So true. So that's another beautiful and necessary message about the relationship with pain and suffering. Yes, the most beautiful people I have met, they have been through a lot of suffering. I know it's not something to take lightly, but it's amazing how they have transformed um, those experiences into something beautiful, and they helped themselves. They created these beautiful gardens, and then they feed others from it. It's incredible. So are yourself. So thank you so much, Stevie, for doing that, for being the garden of life. That's what we need to see more in this reality.
It's joy. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's truly beautiful. That's beauty to me, I have to say. So let's see. I have this final question for you and then a technical one. Um, if there is one message you wish everyone who is watching this video to take with them, what message would that be?
We can recover our innocence. If we accept simple virtues, but it takes forgiveness. We have to take the heavy things lightly and forgive them. And so I
Yeah.
think that is wisdom, is eventually learning to take
Mm,
insanity lightly and
yeah.
overlook it, but with the intention of correcting. Because
Mm,
the innocent,
mm,
they take everything lightly.
yeah.
They're perfectly
True.
wise, even
Yeah.
acknowledge the existence of evil, and trust perfectly. We can
Yeah.
trust again. We can trust each other, and we can trust
Yeah.
beauty.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. What's not to love about it? All this. So I have to let me read what yeah, I mentioned earlier. So you wrote, trust and love are simple and sane. Only insanity is complicated. We can afford to take it lightly. We can afford to take it lightly. That is all wisdom is, really, taking insanity lightly. The innocent are the most wise and beautiful among us. They take everything lightly. They know without complex explanation that they are eternal. I think I paraphrased you here in one of those sentences, but that's I mean the most one of the most profound messages that I came across recently. So thank you so much again, Steve, for going deep into those realms, the inner realms. So we can take insanity lightly, but with that intention to change and repair that and replace with wisdom. So thank you so much for that powerful message. I needed to hear that because I mean we think all of us deal with insanity, and it's a tough one, isn't it? Because we want to fight it, but that doesn't really do much. We just have to, yeah, be wise about it, to our responses. So before we say goodbye, I want to thank you for your presence, your beautiful presence and your beautiful intention and everything within that's helping us to grow and become wiser human beings and has touched me profoundly. Even the first time we met a few months ago, it stayed with me. I could never forget the things you say because they resonate with the heart. So thank you again, Steve. And
Yes, and
before
thank you. I really look forward to having you in the coach training this spring.
I know, yes, March,
Do you
yes,
want
that's
to
our
go with
commitment.
us?
I
Come join
know.
us.
I know. Yes, that's my celebration, an anticipated celebration. Yes, I'm looking forward to that too. So let's see. The last question is, what is the best way to find you? The best way to be in contact with you and your work?
You can look at the website Being True to You, or if anyone's curious about our coach training program or our coaching services, you can check the website or email me. I'm at stevie@beingtruetoyou.com.
Wonderful. And I'll have that link and the website link and your email on your interview profile. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now, Stevie.
Bye bye.